I don't know what you're doing right now, but get your popcorn, whatever you need for this video, because we have a lot to unpack, and this is going to be a great one. Will Levis is currently the betting favorite to be the #2 overall pick in the NFL draft. This is the pick that can ruin every draft board, everything we've learned, everything we know up to this point about the NFL draft. Will Levis going with the 2nd pick to the Houston Texans can ruin it all. I mean, everything that we thought can go out the window. And now I want to take a second to deep dive and really step back and assess this situation. What's going on here? Why is CJ Stroud catching this late flack after the representatives, after the breakdown with Josh McCown on YouTube? How have we came from that to now we're here? So I looked into it as I would. Now, as far as talking about the guys as players, a lot of people don't believe in CJ Stroud's upside, and I'm not in that camp. Now, I think all of these quarterbacks, they have their flaws, whether it be size, whether it be processing, whether it be layering throws with accuracy, whether it be any of those things. But I feel like Will Levis was the guy who was catching the most heat. And, he was in a bad situation. We could say he was in the worst situation. Truly looking at the weapons, looking at the offensive line. If we can go to Anthony Richardson, we can at least say he had something to work with. We go to CJ Stroud, he had everything to work with. We go to Bryce Young, we know what Alabama produces. Now, he had the injuries this season, played through that, was still a great leader, still went out there and fought for his guys. And I said, when we were in the beginning of this process, that means a lot. When you, being a former athlete, you got to know it takes a different mindset to be in this thing. Now, all the football things are nice, but it's really about who lasts the longest, who's the survivor, who has that mindset in a room full of wolves, who's the next wolf. You can't go in a room full of wolves and be the sheep. Will Levis, I do think he's a great leader. Watching the interview, seeing how he talks. Now, CJ Stroud, he's that same type of package. But we talk about under the pressure, and both of those guys, they have their own flaws against pressure. Will Levis, sometimes he's oblivious to it. And I said when I watched Will Levis, wrote that down, I see a little bit of Carson Wentz. Now, some people are saying they see Josh Allen. I see Carson Wentz. Now, let's take a step back and look at this. Carson Wentz had an MVP season. It all went downhill for Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is not a great leader. He's not a great locker room guy. Will Levis, we can say, is those things. So if we think about it, if we get Carson Wentz packaged up into a great leader, who knows what the ceiling of something like that is, truly. Now, CJ Stroud, I like him. If I want to see a drop back pass, I want to see all the mechanics, all of the accuracy, all the different types of throws, he can do that. And I think that's why I'm not understanding where's the hate coming in. We talk about improvising. He's not great off script. When the pressure comes, he's not the same guy. Even the statistics show that he's not the same guy. Had a great supporting cast, and he's not going to have that in the NFL. Houston Texans, no shot at the Houston Texans, but they don't have Marvin Harrison Jr. coming in that room, walking out that room, touching that room. So now, Bryce Young, I think, is a clear-cut favorite to go #1 in the draft. Will Levis at #2, and I'm not saying I would make the move, but it's going to ruin the draft because CJ Stroud, somebody's going to go up and get CJ Stroud, and then we still got Anthony Richardson. So is CJ Stroud going to fall to the 4th quarterback? There's a lot of endless possibilities when we talk about this thing. Tyree Wilson, Will Anderson, those guys throwing wrenches in the draft. And now I want to talk about, let's get this out of the way. So we've already established, it's a lot of upside there with Will Levis. It's a high risk, but it's a high reward. CJ Stroud, we think the floor may be higher, but the ceiling is nowhere near. That's what some teams are saying. That's what I'm hearing now. So this pick is out the way. Now we got #3. We know the Arizona Cardinals aren't drafting CJ Stroud. They aren't drafting Richardson. So what does this make us do? This puts the Colts in a very tough situation because I believe they want that 3rd quarterback off the board. And then this puts the Raiders. This puts the Falcons. This puts a lot of teams in this thing, the Tennessee Titans. So what do we really have here? Because if we get #3, and I think what I really would try to do, now I'm going to try to make the Colts, I'm going to put some pressure on them because I don't want to get outside of that 4th spot. I want that 4th spot because I want the best defensive player on the board. I want to crack at Wilson, Carter, or Anderson. So that's why it's making sense for me. But if you like a Lucas Van Ness, you like a Miles Murphy, any of those type of guys deeper in the draft, then maybe we could say, okay, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to look at this for a second, and then we're going to draft back. We're going to trade back, and then we're going to acquire more picks, build this team. The Arizona Cardinals are terrible. I don't throw that word around lightly. The Cardinals are a terrible football team. They have a lot of holes, a lot of things to work on. The direction doesn't look sold. I'm not sold on the direction of that team at all. So now, once we do that, what do we really want to do? Do we want that blue chip or do we want to acquire more picks? And this is where we can play the hardball game with some of these teams. You're Las Vegas. Okay, you're going to have to give something up. You're going to have to give something up because I wanted Devon Witherspoon. I want anybody. I want any of those guys, but he has to be a blue chip. Now, this is why I think the Tennessee Titans coming out of that 11th spot have the hardest move to make. What are you going to package? Because you paid Jeffrey Simmons. I was glad that you did that. You have some draft picks in this draft, but I think you do have holes that you need your draft picks. So if you trade up for C.J. Stroud, the move and the thought process here has to be contend because the division still young. Now, all those guys, division, we're all drafting quarterbacks basically, and we got the Jacksonville Jaguars looking really scary in our division. So we're going to need a quarterback. If we have any chance of making playoffs, contending, we're going to need a guy that can shoot it out with Trevor Lawrence. And the way that we do that, we got to go get it. But it's going to take a lot. So I don't know as far as what their chances are to do something like that. And as far as I think of the Atlanta Falcons, they're a oddball. I really don't know. I know now defense, I would love for them to go defense. I would love one of those defensive players, especially pass rush, Nolan Smith. You know, Tyree Wilson, I don't think he's going to fall. Jalen Carter could even be in play right there. But the Las Vegas Raiders really cracked my interest. And it's cracking a lot more interest because these teams who we think are off the radar for quarterbacks, a Seattle, a Detroit, we think it's all safe and it's all cool. But as we get closer, we're starting to find out these teams are exploring that option. And I think you have to. For C.J. Stroud, I definitely would like to. Now, I just want to take it to a quarterback who's in the NFL today, Joe Burrow. I don't think Joe Burrow has – now, he can process defenses at a very high level. But as far as arm talent, you know, things of that nature, I don't think he has the best arm. I don't think he's the most athletic. But I think what makes him different is he's always poised. He never lets anything rattle him. But in the end of it, he's still a great quarterback. Now, C.J. Stroud is not as polished as Joe Burrow was coming out of college, but I do think he's a very good quarterback. I don't see the bust potential. I think this pick will really ruin a draft. I have a lot of teams trading up if C.J. Stroud makes it to be that third quarterback who's still on the board. I don't know. But I do know one thing. As we get closer to Thursday, some more stuff going to come out. And we really have to pay attention and lock in. But I'm putting this thought on your mind, and it's not out of the way. It's not out of the realm because he's the highest betting odds for the second overall pick. And, you know, I'm stumbling on saying that because it doesn't even feel right saying that. But that's really what we have here. And I heard about it. I thought it was crazy. I looked into it, and I saw it. Will Levis, and then I saw Tyree Wilson, and then I saw C.J. Stroud. I want to know what you guys think about this. Will this ruin the draft? If C.J. Stroud is the third quarterback off the board, who moves up to get him? Are you mortgaging your franchise to go get C.J. Stroud? Or are you trying to go get Anthony Richardson? What do you do? But I think this ruins everything we learned up to this point. Will Levis might go over C.J. Stroud.